I'm decluttering plastic from my life, and here is why. There are basically two reasons why it's important to me to declutter plastic from my life as much as I can. And it's really, really, really challenging in this modern day and age where everything comes in plastic. But there's two reasons that are really important to me to try to live more consciously on this earth for the time that I have. Reason number one is pollution. When I ask myself, what kind of a planet do I want to leave to the next generations, to my child, to the children around the world, I can't imagine more plastic being in the future and being a good idea. It doesn't seem to work in my head. So if I answered yes to the question, do you want to have more plastic in your life and do you want to give more plastic to the next generations? Then yes, I would consume more plastic and um, I would help manufacturers through my consumption to create more plastic. But I don't want that. I do not want the future generations to have to deal with the decisions that I'm making right here, right now. And it's really polluting to the planet. It's harmful to our waterways, very harmful to our waterways, to the birds, um, the mammals, the rodents, all the animals that are on this planet are suffering from it, including ourselves. And that's the reason number two is that plastic has an impact on our health as human beings. When plastic breaks down, which it does over, several years or decades, sometimes hundreds of years, depending on the kind of plastic it is. When it breaks down into microplastic. And microplastic is already everywhere in our waterways, in the soil, in the air that we breathe sometimes as well. So there's already lots of scientific evidence that shows that microplastic is found in our GI tract. And it's even found in breast milk, which babies drink from. And so if it's in our body, it is not really good because it creates some disruption to our hormonal system, to our immune system. There's more and more scientific studies that shows that there are some connections to common diseases, illnesses like cancer and hormonal disruptions. And so not a good idea to have big quantities of plastic into our lives. So here is what I am trying to do. And it's hard, guys. It's really hard. But the first step is really to refuse plastic at the source. So when I go to the store, here's what I'm going to try to do more of, which I've started doing. It's to go to the fresh produce and the fresh vegetables section. I do not have bulk purchases on top of the mountain where I live. We have two supermarkets, and fresh besides fresh fruits and fresh vegetables, and the deli counter and the butcher counter, basically everything else comes in packaging. So I'm going to try to avoid plastic packaging. I'm going to try to favor foods that come in glass jars, but also, or fresh. But also, what I can do and what I have done is that I can bring my glass jars to the deli counter, to the butcher counter, to the fish monger, and ask them to place the food without touching it, because they have to stay clean, but to place the food directly in the jar. And that's what they have done. So I've had I've had fish in jars. So I bring basically three jars. One is for fish, one is for meat, and one is for cheese, because I like cheese. You can bring a fourth jar for maybe, a deli mixed salad or something like that. Um, and then basically what they do, they plop it in there, you put your jar back on. They have placed a label with the weight and the cost. And when I pay at the checkout, this is what they scan. They scan the label that I've stuck on my glass jar. And that's to prevent my fish, meat, and deli items to come in plastic, which it usually does. And it sometimes comes in styrofoam too, which is awful. You don't want styrofoam at all. This stuff never disintegrates. It's terrible. So, what I found in my cupboards, in my kitchen cupboards that you see behind me, a lot of plastic. Different kind of containers like those that I've used as plastic storage. But the more you use these plastic containers, the more the plastic leaches into your food, especially if you're going to microwave your food, or if you're going to put some hot food in there, or if it's going to stay in the sunshine for a while. It's just not great. So those are going to go. I have found this pencil box that my son's school teacher gave to all the kids, and I'm like, why do we need this? He just needs a pencil and an eraser, and a piece of paper to study. That's really, and maybe some crayons, or pencils ideally. So don't need any more plastic. I have found this plastic bag. I do not buy single-use plastic bags. I refuse them everywhere. I refuse them at the supermarket. I refuse them at the restaurants when they want to, when it's time to, it's at the, when they give you a to-go box, which I bring my to-go box. I refuse them. I say no, 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 no every single time to single-use plastic bags. They are terrible. And think about it. They come, like, how much, they come from the earth. They come from like deep underground, coming from the fossil fuel, all this energy that is being produced to get the oil, the fossil fuel out of the ground. And then it goes into some manufacturing process to create this. And then we use it one time and then it gets thrown away. That is absolute madness. I haven't used single-use plastic bags in forever. This is inherited from a client who was, because I'm a home organizer and decluttering coach, so a lot of my clients have a lot of single-use plastic bags. And so I use them a second time before they end up in the trash by putting the donations in them, as opposed to having to take new trash bags. I don't do trash bags anymore. I don't do trash bags. No plastic, no compostable matter, nothing. There is no single-use plastic bags in my home, and there hasn't been in a long time. So what do I use instead? I use a tub. It is made out of plastic, but I've used it many, many, many times. Every day I use it. This tub resides under my kitchen sink, and inside I put all the dry trash, everything, packaging. Usually it's packaging, cardboard boxes. I try to minimize the trash as much as I can, but I still have trash. Not zero waste quite yet. So I use that tub, and it's the only trash can that I have in the entire house. There's no trash can in the bathroom, in the bedrooms, in the office, outside. There's only one trash container. And when this is full, or once a week, I go, or my husband go out, and we sort. We put the recyclable in the recyclable trash can outside, and we put the non-recyclable in the second trash can that belongs outside. And what about my food scraps? Anything that's food scraps, I compost. And I have a little compost bin on my kitchen counter. And basically, I put all the food scraps in it, vegetables, even bones I would put in it. And this ends up in my garden. And it makes wonderful soil within about 12 months. I don't do anything fancy about it. The earth knows how to decompose matter pretty well, and it doesn't have to end up in landfills and be mixed with all these other materials like synthetic fabrics and plastics and glass and styrofoam and all these things mixed together in a landfill. It's harder to decompose, and it creates a wonderful soil for my backyard. So that's what I do when it comes to plastic. So forget that, forget trash liners, forget plastic bags. You don't need it. You can use reusable bags that are made out of cotton or any material, as long as you use it a lot, and those are also machine washable. So that's it. And I found also these remnants of plastic storage boxes, which I used to have a ton of. I used to believe that you need to store your things in plastic containers. Well, when you start minimizing, and when you minimize more and more, you have fewer things to store. And all these grand storage solutions, shelving and plastic bins, large plastic bins and little plastic bins and more little bins, eventually you don't need them. And this is where I'm at in my minimizing process. I don't need more storage containment than I already have. So this is gonna go. What else did I want to show you? This spray, I have quite a few plastic sprays that I used to buy when I wasn't thinking about the consequences of my actions. So I do have quite a few of those, and so this one is an extra one that I do not use, and so I can give it away. And I think that's about it. I mean, I have found this plastic divider. This has a lot of use still left in it, so I'm going to sell it. And I have found also this Lazy Susan made out of plastic, which also I don't really need anymore because I have fewer things to store, and I'm also going to sell it. So what do you do once you have decluttered a lot of plastic from your home? Are you going to put it in a trash can? Let's try not to do that unless the plastic is falling apart. Let's try to first sell what is sellable. So I'm definitely going to try to sell the Lazy Susan and the little plastic dividers. Those containers might be sold in bulk. So I'm going to try to sell on a Facebook Marketplace. I can sell at a yard sale because we have Labor Day weekend, which is a 3-day weekend here in the US coming up soon. So I'm going to do a little yard sale. And hopefully people will want to use it. If they don't, I'm going to drop it off at my local thrift store. I have spoken with my local thrift store about plastic storage containers like this, food related. And they said to me that usually people don't buy them because the minute they see a little scratch, they would rather not buy it. And also they're cheap to buy. And yes, they're cheap to buy, so people buy brand new because they're like, oh, it's only $3, $5, and I can have 10 of those. And so they may not sell. They may not be donatable. So they may end up in the landfill. And I'm hoping there's going to be way more use out of these storage containers that maybe people would put their nicks and knacks in them. But if not, they will end up in the landfill, and they will end up in the landfill pretty. I don't know. It's not like something that's gonna last years and years and years. So whereas this glass jar can last for several generations. I could just change the lid, but the glass itself is super, super durable. Or stainless steel would be super durable, and you can even pass it on to the next generation with very. It just needs to be cleaned, and it's wonderful. So I don't feel very good about it, which is why I'm going to try to see if somebody else has a use for it, and to try to keep it away from the landfill as long as possible. But my next action step is really to be conscious about the food, the toiletries, the consumables that I buy at the supermarket, at the store. I buy less and less and less, and I definitely don't need storage containers anymore. But I can try to buy more simply, and buy in bulk as much as I can. I may have to drive down the mountain once in a while to buy large quantities of like trail mix or coffee or things like that. But for the time being, I can try to do the glass jar um, at the counter. And something else about the glass jar is that it's a little scary to go against the grain and to go to the deli counter or the butcher and ask them to put the food directly in a glass jar. And I've been told, no, sorry, we can't do that. It's not sanitary. And I'm like, okay, that's fine, but you just plop the food in the jar without touching anything, and you just put your sticker to the side, and then you usually change your gloves because they have to change their gloves regularly when they handle meat and fish and dairy. That's what happens in the US. Lots of gloves being used. So I've been told no, and my heart rate was like going so fast, and I was like very uncomfortable and scared that somebody would say no, or somebody would say something about sanitation and kind of implying that maybe you're dirty or anything like this. But when you think about it, a lot of people said yes. And so I go to the people who say yes, because like, yeah, sure, I can do that, not a problem. Where is the big deal here? There is no big deal. And they actually think it's pretty cool, and it makes people think differently. And the customers around me notice, oh, well, she's not using the plastic packaging, and maybe I can try the same thing. I've got glass jars at home. I have stainless containers. I have reusable, even plastic boxes or containers. Maybe it doesn't matter what you use. For me, I prefer glass in this case. And then once it's in there, I put it in the fridge and I use it within the week. So I don't need to remove packaging, throw away packaging. It's already ready to go. And then I just wash this. Easy after I've used it. So the only thing you need to remember is to bring the glass jars into your reusable bags at the store. So, hey, I got 4 of those, 3 of those. That's not too hard to carry around. It's really no big deal. And that's enough for me and my husband and son. So we have 3 people living in the house, and 3 glass jars of is enough for us for about a week for fish, meat, and dairy. So That's it, guys. Let me see if I've forgotten anything. But these are the two reasons why I'm decluttering plastic and trying to replace it with my glass jars. You can do stainless steel, and I also have some silicone bags for when I need more lightweight solutions. So I'm not planning on accepting more plastic into my home. And that's it. I think that's it. The only thing that I could say about donating or selling, number one, I'm trying to sell, then I try to donate to the thrift store. If the thrift store doesn't want it, I leave it in front of my house, the items that I don't want, for about 24 hours. And I don't want it to be unsightly for my neighbors for too long. And if nobody picks it up, then I end up putting it in the trash. But sometimes people pick it up, and you would be surprised at what items people pick up from the trash, from the donations on the curb, on the curbside, curbside. Mm, that's a tough one for me. Thank you so much for listening and tuning in. This was about plastic. It's a big deal, and it's gonna take a while for me to be fully plastic free in my house. But stay tuned. I hope this was inspiring, and if we can help each other out to declutter plastic from our lives and live more like our ancestors used to live, in this level of simplicity and sustainability, actually, maybe 100 years ago, 200 years ago, 300 years ago, maybe even my great grandparents' generation, they lived pretty sustainably compared to um, us, compared to my life. So thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you on the next video. Bye bye.